I just realized I'm jealous of my 6-year-old son. Yesterday morning, I woke up at like 6 a.m. and walked out to the living room. My son Tyler was sitting on the couch, fully dressed in his school clothes, backpack ready by the door, just watching cartoons. School doesn't start until 8, so I was confused why he was even awake. I sat down next to him and asked what he was doing up so early. He looked at me all casual and said he'd accidentally peed the bed around 4 in the morning. My first thought was panic mode, like, oh no, he's embarrassed, he's upset, what do I say? But then he kept talking. He told me he'd tried to wake me up, but I was sleeping too hard, so he just handled it himself. He'd stripped his bed, carried all his wet sheets and blankets to the laundry room, changed into clean pajamas, then got himself dressed for school, just like that. I thanked him for taking care of it and told him we'd get everything washed and back on his bed before bedtime. No big deal. Accidents happen. He just nodded and went back to watching his show like nothing had happened. I went to the kitchen to make coffee and that's when it hit me. I was jealous of my own kid. Not because he has better toys or more free time or whatever. I was jealous because he felt safe enough to try and wake me up when something went wrong. When I was his age, maybe 6 or 7, I wet the bed sometimes too, but the thought of waking my parents up, that would never have crossed my mind. Not in a million years. My first instinct was always pure fear. I remember one specific time when I was probably 7. I woke up in the middle of the night soaking wet and my first thought was how much trouble I was going to be in. My parents didn't do the whole understanding and patient thing, they did the yelling and punishment thing. So I got up, went to the bathroom, and grabbed an entire roll of toilet paper. I spent probably an hour trying to dry my sheets and mattress with wads of toilet paper, just pressing it into the wet spots over and over, watching it fall apart and stick to everything. It didn't work, obviously. The sheets were still damp and cold, but I was too scared to do anything else. I just laid back down on the wet bed and tried to sleep, hoping it would somehow dry by morning before my mom came in to wake me up. That was my childhood. Problem solving based entirely on fear. Trying to hide mistakes because mistakes meant getting screamed at or worse. My son doesn't have to live like that. Tyler's first instinct when he had a problem was to try and get help from his parent. When that didn't work, he solved it himself and then just told me about it in the morning like it was no big deal. He wasn't scared. He wasn't worried about getting in trouble. He was just like, hey dad, this thing happened. I took care of it. That level of security, that trust, that feeling of safety. I never had that as a kid. I was always walking on eggshells, always worried about doing something wrong, always trying to stay invisible so I wouldn't catch my parents on a bad day. And sitting there drinking my coffee, watching Tyler laugh at his cartoon, I realized I was jealous of the childhood I gave him. The childhood I never got to have. Where mistakes are just mistakes, not reasons to be terrified. He's growing up in a house where he can wake his parents up at 4 a.m. if something's wrong, where he can spill juice or break something or wet the bed and know that, yeah, we'll deal with it, but nobody's going to hurt him or scream at him or make him feel like he's a bad kid. I never got that, and watching him have it, watching him just exist without that constant fear I lived with, made me realize how different his life is from mine. And for just a second, I wished I could go back and be 6 years old in his life instead of mine.